Alright, time for another draftphysics.com. Debate physics also, but the debate is just unavailable. Yeah, can't download it, can't do anything, can't find it because they're all cowards, pathetic cowards. So, all the naysayers, the naysayers. Alright, so I could start with the simple statement. Okay, yeah, do you really believe it takes 25 times the fuel to spin something 5 times as fast? I mean, it's silly on its face. It's what the physics actually says. It is the direct implication of the physics. And there's absolutely no evidence of it. Okay, you crash a car at 5 times the speed, you do 5 times the damage. 5 times the damage is a lot of damage. That's the facts. Okay, there's just no evidence of this crap. All right, you can never collect this kinetic energy, as I pointed out with the ballistic pendulum. So the point would be is, do you also believe, okay, little fucktard, little asshole who's going to type little gibberishy nonsense, do you actually believe I can make more energy just by turning the nozzle on a hose? Because that's your theory. Your theory is that if I can have half the volume of water at twice the speed, I will have 4 times the energy. Just no problem. Or do you have enough brains to understand that, yeah, it matters how fast you put energy into something. There's a speed limit to how fast something can actually absorb energy. And if you go faster than that speed limit, you can do damage to surfaces. And then if you take, like, light bulb, you could have a 5-watt light bulb and it's shining light everywhere and nothing's burning. Or you could focus it into a laser and that 5 watts will burn a hole through something. So you can't understand that argument. And you think it's 9.8 meters per second squared. You don't understand that Newton wrote and Galileo said 9.8 per 1 second. You get it in 1 second chunks. You have to wait a full second to be going 9.8. It's a full 1 second. A half second, different formula. 2 seconds, different formula. It's not 9.8 anymore. You can't understand that argument? Fuck. Too ridiculous. Alright, so bin, whatever that is. Okay, do you think the global physics community, so I have to talk about all of them, right? I have to profile them all as being the same little scum turd. But yes, okay, generally speaking, okay, are lying or just incompetent? They're both. Obviously, Einstein, I'd have to say, God damn it, Einstein, are you stupid enough to believe it takes 25 times the fuel to spin something 5 times as fast? I got to ask that question over and over again. Einstein, didn't you think about a lever and a balance and the fact that, well, the balance says it's 2 to 1. Yeah, gravity says 4 to 1, but the balance says 2 to 1. So, let's be rational and understand. I mean, he should have understood about gravity that it's 9.8 meters per 1 second. I mean, I don't think Einstein didn't know that. So the fact that it falls 4 times the distance, well, it's only in the gravity twice as long. I think Einstein knew that if a speeding meteor is coming towards Earth and it goes through the substance of Earth's strong gravity in 1 second, that all it's going to get is 9.8 meters per second of added velocity. So it'll be going 20,000 and 9.8. We won't gain any velocity at all. No percentage of velocity the faster it goes through gravity. I think Einstein knew that if I had a gravitational body here and I zoom past it, I don't get bent. Yeah, because I'm not in the gravity long enough. So I don't know why the fuck he would have thought this squaring of velocity thing could make any sense at all. Why did anybody think it could make any sense? Obviously, when it was proposed, everybody said, fuck you, that's idiotic. Leibniz was buried as a pauper, a nobody. Nobody showed up for his funeral. Even the Germans didn't show up, for fuck's sake. It's not even like the English decided to go show up, but the Germans didn't even show up. So obviously not a big winning strategy on his part, arguing that crap and all that other religious shit, of course. Didn't make him all that popular with the scientists. But so why do you believe it? Why? What experiment? What piece of glaring evidence tells you, yes, it takes 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast? Where? Where do you have a single shred of fucking evidence defending this crap? And yet you'll fucking believe, you know. But anyway, back to the point. Lying or incompetent. Well, clearly they're incompetent. Clearly you're fucking idiots to believe any of this crap. Entanglement based on nothing. The water does not match the light. There's no fucking water interference with the single slit in water. I mean, they're just obvious glaring defects in the logic applied. So of course they're incompetent. You're fucking idiotic religious dupes. I mean, to say you're dumber than Catholics, I mean, you're dumber than any of these stupid religions with stupid stories that don't make any fucking sense. You might as well believe in a shark god if you're going to believe in 1/2 mv squared, because there's zero evidence defending it. Okay. And so the lying part, I've shown them lying. They say experiment, oh, we took detectors and we detected the fire, but they never did any of these fucking experiments. I showed Al-Kahari just the other day, sitting there just making a... Oh, the electron experiment is essentially the same thing as 2 slits. Banging an electron into a piece of nickel is exactly the same as 2 slits. What? So of course they're liars too. They keep saying it's the most proven theory in the history of man. I can't find any of the fucking proof. None. Zero. There's no fucking proof anywhere. Anyway. So then this Clive Adams guy, right? Is that what it says? Yeah. Fucking piece of trolly shit. Looks like they're incompetently lying. Obviously it's a good enough lie for you. You're fooled. You don't have any evidence for this shit. You believe it. You're defending it. So, yeah, doop-de-doop. Alright. Since they just got caught out. They got caught out 300 years ago. Okay, 300 years ago, people made logical statements like, well, the law of the lever seems to be in direct contradiction to what you're proposing. So, how do you fix that? And their answer is, fuck you. I don't have to. I think the lion made the difference. So if I was the traditional physicist, I'd have a guitar on my wall. So that would be so much more, right? That's so much more connected to physics, yeah. Fuck you people. You're just such pieces of shit. Well, I've dealt with this comment, so I'm going to delete the comments I've dealt with. So whatever you're implying here, okay, I have to call them liars or I have to call them imbeciles. All right, I'll call them dishonest imbeciles. How's that? All right. Yay, another person willing to think for themselves. It's just, this really isn't about thinking for yourself. It's about having the minimum amount of integrity to recognize when your side's making a bad argument. So if you're defending something that's obviously shit, okay, like I could bring up the Professor Lewin experiment. I could bring up different things where there's obvious shenanigans, obvious bullshit, and you should just say, well, that's bullshit, let's just forget it. So as soon as Eddington wrote in his book, my slides are only 10% of the quality I was hoping for. So he's doing a very difficult experiment, and he's only got 10% of the data quality he was expecting. Only 10%. Well, an honest person says, oh, fuck this. Right? Game over. Sorry, bad luck, huh? But it's over. There's no, you can't recover from a 10% degrade in a very difficult experiment. It's just, forget it. It's lost all credibility. So it's not about thinking for yourself. It's about being a tiny bit honest. Do these people think you can really make free momentum? I mean, what's the implications of free momentum? I can put 100 in, get 133 or 150 out, and then I could do it over and over again, just keep doubling, adding a half to my energy. Does that make any sense? Is there any evidence anybody's using it in industry anywhere? No, because it's nonsense. Again, the ballistic pendulum loses 99.94% of the kinetic energy. Where do you think it is? Oh, it's heat. Well, you want to show me the experiment where you make heat without using something's momentum? Oh, fuck. It just goes on and on. Anyway, so this isn't about thinking for yourself. It's about having a tiny bit of integrity, and people are showing no integrity. They're claiming it's something's proven when it's not even anywhere close to a well-evidenced argument. Okay, if this was a trial, there'd be a mistrial. There's no way you could convict on this shitty evidence. Alright, so here's Will Clark. These proofs you rave about, I think it's the wrong word to use, but whatever, rave usually implies something positive, are reserved for mathematics. So again, just more lying. No, there's plenty of physics to talk about a mathematical proof. Physical sciences don't have proofs, so says you. They use the word all the time. Okay, you find evidence and create models from the data. Right, and their standard model is the most incomprehensible pile of garbage you could imagine. I mean, they can't draw it to save their lives. How's the damn thing work? Well, there's a positron hiding over here, and there's a neutrino hiding over here. Well, 99% of the stuff in the atom is actually invisible, and we don't know where the hell it is. I mean, come on. Theories can be used to explain these models. So this is just word gibberish. The difference between an idea and a theory and a proposal and a belief. Fuck you until completely dead. You are not making some kind of breakthrough. So obviously the breakthrough is that I've perfectly modeled charge, which your physics can't even explain. So I've done exactly what you're supposed to do. You added up the pieces, the momentum in this case. You come up with simple rules governing the function of simple objects, and you demonstrate that it produces exactly the results seen in experiments. That's exactly what a breakthrough would be, okay, is something that perfectly fits both the data, okay, whatever that is, you know, the experimental results, and is perfectly consistent with the mathematical relationships drawn by Maxwell. You are showing everyone that you are a narcissist. So no, and if you would show yourself, you would show yourself to be a big fat tub of lard. Okay, who's never done a motherfucking thing in their actual fucking goddamn life of any kind of merit. All you've done is shove potato chips in your mouth and watch TV. Too lazy to actually learn. So again, I've watched and played on my video channel, okay, hundreds of lectures. Hundreds. Okay. And learn the hard science. And what part is the hard science? I should learn how to fuck up the weights on air carts, or I should learn that it's a really good idea to have a low friction car with metal wheels that are very small so the axle can spin very fast and you can store a bunch of energy as angular momentum in the wheels. I should figure out how that's a good low friction cart for a linear experiment. So if you were in a competition to win the mousetrap energy car thing, where you try to take the energy from a mousetrap and make a car go the furthest, you would put little tiny wheels on your cart because you've learned the good physics. Yeah, fuck you. All right. And a terrible influence on growing minds. Do better, please. I'm going to make you eat those words, right? Even if I'm dead, you're going to eat them, fucker. All right, so I hope your real name is Will Clark. I hope somebody someday just points out what a weasel you are. You fucking little piece of garbage. There's no argument here. All right. Also, the simple destruction of your non-Bohr atom is Rayleigh scattering. How so? So the fact that little particles scatter different light than big particles, that is, big ones infrared and all that kind of stuff, little ones absorb infrared. So it just makes logical sense for you to understand that based on the polarization of the light. Do you understand the word polarization? The photons are actually bigger and smaller because of the polarization, retard. All right, so that's what's the controlling factor. So you can just understand that little things, okay, if you have big things, little things have a chance of getting through without getting fucked up. All right, and but they also have a higher chance of being completely absorbed, that is, completely hitting the object and being absorbed. So big objects would absorb blue light, okay, and little tiny objects would absorb less blue light, and therefore more blue light would get through the obstacle course. So he just says it like everybody knows what Rayleigh scattering is, and that everybody understands the concept, but it has absolutely zero to do with having a spinning electron around an atom. So why don't you explain how scattering works? Why don't you explain how the light is somehow propelled by the moving electron or changed or whatever? I mean, obviously the interaction is between electrons and photons, but a whole photon isn't going to be affected by a single electron. But anyway, you're not saying anything. It's just bullshit. How, in what way does the fact that more blue light is absorbed, okay, by, in the case of small particles, less of the red light is absorbed and more of it gets through, how does that prove the Bohr model of an atom? All right, it is not the force within an atom, so whatever that even means. There's obviously, I made it quite clear that the force inside the atom is the pressure. So you've allowed a proton to get very close to another proton by sticking an electron between it, and that ends up converting the force. So you didn't need any energy, extra energy, to push them together, because you negated a force essentially with the electron, and then you could just pop the electron out and you're stuck with two protons really close to each other, and by Maxwell's own equations an incredible amount of velocity is going to be created because of the like putting two magnets together. So if you had a special magnet, okay, you had a little, if there were magnetic monopoles, you could understand the argument, right? I have a north pole and I have a north pole, and then I have a south pole magnet. Okay, I put the south pole between the two north poles. The two north poles go right together. If I knock the south pole out, you can understand that the two north poles are right next to each other. They're going to fly out. That's a perfectly reasonable explanation of the strong force. Perfectly reasonable. And you type this mush. All right, trying this as I'm typing this as I'm watching, which is again the lamest thing you could possibly. I mean, you're just admitting I'm a troll. Who but a troll does that? Like a Pyrrho. You can't absorb a complete argument and then make your argument. Jesus. The net force encompasses all forces positive. So again, this idea of net forces encompassing all forces positive and negative. There's no such thing as a negative force. There's no unenergy. And there's no canceling force. That's what Descartes said 300 fucking years ago. Even Leibniz had figured out there's no negative energy. Okay? So if the energy is continuous in the universe, you can't make some argument, two things banged into each other and the energy canceled. It doesn't cancel. All right. So if I take two steel balls and I let them go in a Newton's cradle, no problem. They don't get hot. I could put a piece of paper between them and the two balls will hit and the paper will not burn. But if I push them together and force them not to be able to reflect, the paper will burn, indicating that the energy isn't canceling. It's being converted into heat in that case. All right. And the energy is momentum. The momentum is making heat. You want to make heat, you have to use something's momentum. You can't make heat without using something's momentum. All right, let's see. The net force encompassing all forces positive and negative. That is the definition of the net something. What's in your book, okay? In my book, Okay, there's no in this case there's no canceling. So when you're going to talk about a net, you have to explain where something's still doing this, where the energy is. Did it go somewhere, or is it doing this back and forth thing? Because that's the only way two forces in the opposite direction, they can't just disappear. They either make the energy leave in a direction, or they do this. But those are the only two choices, fucktard. I'd recommend learning about neutron, degeneration, degeneracy pressure too. Why would I bother with that? The only information I need is that the very fact that physics is actually conceding that neutrons decompose into an electron and a proton, and they say an anti-neutrino. Well, who cares about the anti-neutrino? It has no energy anyway. So irrelevant, pretty much. They're basically conceding my argument that a neutron isn't made out of neutral material, that it actually is just a dipole. And yes, from a distance it will look neutral. A red and a blue put very far away will look purple. Don't even bother getting into Pauli's exclusion principle. Yes, why would I bother getting into baby talk, silly goo-goo, mush-mush? I mean, it's so fucking idiotic. You believe that two things can actually be in the same space, that physical space, and your argument is that two things that are the same can't be in the same space, but two things that are different can be in the same space. Yes, they can all be in the same space. Everything can be in one little piece of space. You see, I could just take these things and poof, they're all in this. Well, it isn't the same space, is it? Well, in the little physics, it's possible for everything to be in one place. Yeah, so why would I even consider that as anything other than, and the shark god said, yum yum choo choo. I mean, why would I take that seriously as a physics concept? Shit. Well, I'd have to be an imbecile, an idiot, a fool, a dupe, a nut. You're flat earthers. Okay. I know you just deny that because you refuse to learn it. To learn what? What is there? Please explain the learning process where you have some good reason to believe matter, pieces of matter can be both in the same place. Just give me one good reason why you think that's a real concept. One piece of evidence that demonstrates, oh yes, that's a really good concept. I could grow my whole garden in just one little pot. Because fuck, why not just grow all the beets in the same place? Why not? Makes perfectly good sense. No, it doesn't. You're an idiot. Oh, fuck. Alright. So this is whatever. VRE born. The standard models has limitations. This does not account for all observed. It doesn't account for anything. It doesn't have gravity, right? Of course, gravity's a force. It isn't just some geodesic. But you know that's not in their standard model. But what is correct about it? Just point out the correct parts. I'd be interested. Outside of what Ori Maxwell told you about how charges work, he didn't explain why they work that way. But you know, in Faraday, what does the standard model have in it that makes any sense? Like dark energy and dark matter, right? Just made up excuses. We have a problem. It doesn't work. Let's just make a fake. You know, Einstein admitted, well, that was pretty lame of me to create this fake force. Oh, wait a minute. The fake force idea was really good. This is like normalization, right? They have math that creates all kinds of affinities and zeros and negative numbers in the places that you can't have a negative number. And what do? They do something called normalization, which means, well, we'll just factor that out. Well, they did the same thing with the Lorentz transformation. They just zero out any abnormalities. I mean, it's just a cop-out. You don't have the answer, so you come up with voodoo to fix it. You're just cheating. All right. However, the SM, the standard model, has been incredibly successful in making accurate predictions about what? What did it predict? Explain it to me. So Feynman went on about this stupid magnetron number that they measure, right? So there's some dopey thing called a magnetron, which is some sort of cyclotron thing. I don't know what it is exactly. I couldn't follow. And this is their prediction about some sort of crap about what the total angular momentum of an electron is. So they're counting the orbital momentum plus its spinning momentum. And they think that's what they're measuring. They have a machine that can measure that. Do you believe they have a machine that can measure that? I don't believe they have a machine that can measure that. I'm not falling for it. So, I mean, fuck you. Okay, many of which have been confirmed through rigorous experimentation. Says nobody. Says whatever. Clueless douchebag with no channel. The claims you are making in this video are simply not true. Well, why don't you refute one of them, you fucking lame piece of crap? Ugh. I'm not sure if it's malicious or just fundamental lack of understanding. Well, again, why don't you show me a single shred of evidence demonstrating mv squared is real energy? Show me one fucking experiment where you actually collect this crap. Show me. All right. Of known physics. But I'd encourage you to fucking get what you deserve, okay? Which is to be crushed very slowly, I believe. Because you're a lying scumbag. You come on this video, you have no counter argument to what I have actually said in the video. Not a single, you're not going to respond to a single point made. You have zero evidence defending this poor shit. The math is a lie in the two-slit experiment, for example, because you're not measuring the center of the wave. That's where you draw your vectors from, is the center of the wave. Well, then why all of a sudden is the center of the wave go from being in between the slits to all of a sudden being on the surfaces, okay? Yeah, how come the math says the wave is on the surface and your drawing says the wave is in the middle of the opening? Those are two different things, fucktard, and are very easy to see, that deception, that lie. Oh, God damn. But I encourage you to educate yourself on the well-established principles of physics. Well-established, you have not even measured 4 pounds dropped 1 foot, 1 pound dropped 4 feet. Show me that fucking experiment. That's the axiom this whole bullshit was founded on, this whole squared velocity horseshit. A guy shows up and just says it's true. Show me the experiment that demonstrates it to be true, you fucking horseshit piece of crap, fucker, mother... Get what you deserve, get what you deserve, get what you deserve. Okay. And to consult reputable scientific sources. Yeah, go to our popes. So I have, haven't I? I'm playing their videos in my video, pointing out how they're lying scum. Okay, really, you think it's okay for Al-Kahari to say, throwing an electron straight on into a piece of nickel crystal is the same thing, exactly the same thing as a two-slit experiment. I mean, obvious that the nickel has 2 slits, even though, no, it doesn't have any 2 slits. It's a smooth crystal of nickel. Same experiment. Fuck you, liar. All right. Spreading misinformation. So what sentence was misinformation? Where? Where was a single sentence misinformation? Where did I say anything dishonest? Where did I misrepresent a truth somewhere, you lying scumbag? You're a slanderer now. Okay, you've added slander to your moron crimes. All right, because I didn't misinform anybody. I merely pointed out I'm not an imbecile. Okay, and I know it doesn't take 25 times the fuel to spin something 5 times as fast. I'm not as dumb as you. And I know for fuck goddamn sure I can't make free energy by merely turning the dial on the hose. You know. Okay. Can hinder public understanding and appreciation for scientific progress. So it's just religion. You're just religious fanatics. You have no evidence. It doesn't make any logical sense. You might as well, the standard model, you might as well label everything Holy Ghost, Poopy Ghost, Fucktard Ghost, they're all just ghosts. They're all just, you know, you're saying you have a god, and then you have ghosts, and then you have angels, and then you have spirits, right? Is that what it is? So what you ought to just label it correctly. You're the one misinforming by not calling your science what it is, a fucktarded religion. We have achieved. So again, none of the technical progress required anybody to believe in entanglement, or anybody to believe in interference, or anybody to believe in any of that crap. Okay, your cause and effect chain is a pile of shit. Now, the fact that we figured out you can become buoyant, okay, by going fast enough on a wing, or some other fact that we figured out that doesn't have anything to do with any quantum mechanic crapola, or anything to do with MV squared. Okay, so then this Clive asshole chimes in. Oh, come on. Nobody thinks this is serious, do they? Question mark. Ha 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 ha. So that's how serious they take the integrity of their beliefs, that they don't come to defend the integrity of their science, right? So it's okay. It's really okay to lie about the Eddington experiment, right? And they are just lies, right? When somebody says it was a really great experiment, that's just lying, right? And there's all kinds of facts, you know, concerning the fact that a bunch of the slides disappeared just 10 years after the experiment. They were gone. So, you know, there's all kinds of reason to have a great deal of doubt about the credibility of that experiment. And yet they've never tried it from space. 400 times better resolution. 400 times. You don't need an eclipse. It takes 5 minutes. And they've never even tried it. And that to you is a plausible reality. An image experiment, right? It's one of the only experiments where you're actually manipulating an image. So you take out scatter. It's not possible, you know, if you resolve an image, it's not possible for scatter to be the cause of the bending. So you know that it has to be something actually moving like gravity. So it's a very unique experiment, and they've never even tried it. They could use Jupiter, okay, from space, because the resolution is so good. Never even tried it. All right, anyway. Not even the lion. It's just somewhere to come to laugh. No disinformation will be spread. They're just all such cowards. I have tried to pay them to debate. I've tried to pay them to argue a 5-minute video, and they won't do it. Right? These cowards. These pathetic cowards. You're a coward, Clive. A pathetic, weaselly coward. All right. Yeah. Ugh, just disgusting. All right. Really interesting. So this is Particle Boy. That's kind of a... Yeah. When did you make that up? Yesterday? Anyway, really interesting theory, though I don't exactly understand what you mean when you say that electromagnetism is a visual force. Look at Maxwell's drawing. The two objects are seeing each other. That's how they know there's, you know, it's like photons between them. There's some force between them, and they essentially see it based on their size. So if I made the electron twice as big as the proton, the drawing wouldn't work anymore. You see, that's the point. That's a you can the objects. It's line of sight. It's like talking about satellite telemetry. You know that satellites have to be able to see each other to send a signal. You know, because it's a straight line force. That kind of idea. And so, you know, it's just a simple argument that you could just understand this as if it was photons. And what all you're really saying is can I see, what do I see when I look at the other object? Do I see a proton? Do I see an electron? So you're looking at a nucleus, and the nucleus has pieces that have electrons and protons. And as I turn the nucleus, you see different things. You see more electrons this way, and then you see more protons this way. That's the argument, retard. I mean, fucker. I mean, shithead. Anyway, okay. What do you mean when? Okay, okay. Could you show me what equations you propose govern electromagnetism? The same ones Maxwell already drew up, but with the exception that he doesn't understand magnetism at all. So he doesn't understand that magnetism is the side effect. It's not. Doesn't take energy to make magnetism once you've used energy to make electricity. Electricity compresses atoms. Now you could sort of understand the electricity is pushing, all right, electrons into electrons. When you push the two electrons this way, there's two electrons this way, and let's say there's two electrons this way. When you push the electrons this way, like this one's going to apply a force to this one's going to move, this one's going to move, this one's going to move. When you do that, what do you do to these electrons? Oh, that's right, you push them out. And what happens when you push them out? You're pushing them out on the surface, which means now you're changing what the wire looks like because you're pushing electricity through it. And it works perfectly consistent with the idea that low voltages and high amperages and high voltages and low amperages, it perfectly fits with the idea that to create the magnetic effect, you have to squish all of the atoms in the wire. The more atoms you squish, the more magnetic effect. If you use a high voltage and only affect a few atoms, well, then you won't squish very many and you won't create any magnetism. So it all fits together. Alright, so I said to him, Maxwell did more than derive equations. He drew pictures illustrating the equations. These illustrations are perfectly consistent with everything I am arguing in defense of. There are no wave functions in Maxwell's math. It's just Ampere and Gauss smashed together. I haven't argued the math is wrong. I'm arguing that what they say it proves is wrong. So obviously when Maxwell says, well, it demonstrates there's an ether. No, there's no fucking ether. Alright, so Particle says, I don't understand. Okay. The pictures that Maxwell gives don't describe any pressure between similarly charged particles. That's exactly my point, you jackass. What do you mean he doesn't describe any similarly charged particles? Of course there's pressure. His drawing is arrows going out from an electron. You're too stupid. You're obviously too fucking stupid. You don't think Maxwell knew that protons fly away from each other and that electrons fly away from each other? Alright. Anyway. Let's see. Between similarly charged particles. Similarly? There's a similar charge? No, I think it's either the same charge or no charge. But anyway. And Maxwell didn't even think there was anything called a quark and a half charge or any of that crapola. And if you use Maxwell's equations, you can find a stable arrangement of electron, proton, electron. Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. That's what's exactly I showed in my video. Like you show in the video. So what you're saying does contradict what Maxwell says. I'll read that again. And if you use Maxwell's equations, you can't find... Oh, what do you mean you can't? Show me. Show me somewhere in a Maxwell equation where you can't have electron, proton, electron, or proton, electron, proton. Show me somewhere in those equations where that can't happen. That can't be perfectly stable, insanely stable. I mean, you're such a piece of shit. I mean, how could you possibly argue that the like charge, it's like saying magnets won't stick to each other. Yeah, they will, you dumb fuck. Maxwell's equations don't say the magnets won't stick to each other. North, south, north, south, north, south. That's not what his equation says. They don't stick to each other. Oh, you're just such a weasel. All right, anyway. So what you're saying does contradict what Maxwell says. So fuck you, you're an idiot. Okay, unless you say there is some issue in interpreting his T. I don't even know what that is. What his T is. Fuck you, you're stupid. I did edit and delete. Oh, that's my comment. So we'll just delete the whole fucking useless moronic thread. Alright. Okay, no, neutrons, so this is some flat earth and loony or something. No, neutrons are not proton and electron stuck together. So says you, okay, with no argument, no evidence, no anything. No citation. Okay, and no, neutrons are not hydrogen atoms. So again, says you. It's a perfectly reasonable building block understanding to understand that, yes, everything's made out of this little arrangement of electron-proton. And you just add another electron, proton, electron, or electron, proton, electron. And you can make all kinds of complex geometric objects. Perfectly works. Alright, so this guy said, it must feel so good to be the only one who understands physics, to understand physics. So, kind of a weird statement, frankly. Alright. And then Bass and Bass says, I'm not sure how someone figuring out physics got their, figuring out that physics, he wrote this kind of poorly, figuring out physics got their axioms wrong could make anyone feel good. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't give you much confidence in human beings if, oh, you mean even the scientists just want to make a religion. They don't want to make a science. They don't want to find the truth. They want to, go to unicornum. I mean, they want to go to some phantasmagorical silly place. In fact, it should bother people, not make them feel good. These are supposed to be people who want the truth, and they're supposed to be, smart. They're obviously idiots. They think, if you think it takes 25 times the fuel to spin something 5 times as fast, you're a fucking idiot. Alright, and that's exactly what their physics says. Let's see. I think understanding physics is one thing, and explaining the smallest of details is completely different. It's just too silly. Obviously, the challenge is to get as much detail as possible, but clearly they haven't even dropped 4 pounds 1 foot and 1 pound 4 foot and measured the impact weight. They haven't done the simplest experiments. They haven't crashed a 5 mass going 10 velocity into a 10 mass going 5 velocity and notice that the crash does this. The 5 mass doesn't have twice the energy and push the collision in its direction. The two things, yeah. If I crash them into a lever, right? I put a lever here and I crash the 5 here and the 10 here. The lever doesn't go, oh, no, it just says, okay, reflection. The impact forces are the same. Okay, but if there is only one person who understands it, then I'm not claiming anything about physics ever again. Oh, that was a different comment, okay. Alright, I think understanding physics is one thing and explaining the smallest details is completely different. But if there is only one person who understands it, so the claim is there's only one person that can understand that when you tell me it takes 25 times the fuel to spin something 5 times as fast, I shouldn't believe that because that's just stupid. So the fact that I'm the only person that can figure out that's stupid, that's a stupid claim, it's moronic, it's idiotic. I mean, the fact that the balance tells you, okay, that the relationship is a 1 mass going 4 velocity equals a 4 mass going 1 velocity. That's what something as old as a lever, a balance, tells you clearly. And that truth is in complete contradiction to your statement that it's 4 times. All right. But if there's only one person who understands it, then I'm not claiming anything about physics ever again. I mean, it's useless mush, whatever. Obviously, people learn what they learn from another person. Good day. Whatever that even means. The fact is that we all are mixing bowls. And all we can do is take in information and then mix it. What I'm saying is when I show you Professor Lewin's carts, the honest thing to say is that's fucked up because there's no way that cart weighs twice as much. It doesn't have enough crap on it to be twice as heavy. When I tell you that you can't make free energy by just turning the nozzle on a hose, you should say, yeah, okay, that's a good argument. Free energy, yeah, that you shouldn't be able to make free energy. That's silly. I've made all these arguments, and if you had an honest brain, your honest brain would say, yeah, okay, that's a good argument. We got to fix this because, yeah, something's wrong. If it doesn't take 25 times the fuel to spin something 5 times as fast, then why are we claiming it does? Why do we say the bullet has 2,500 joules of energy when we can't collect 2,500 joules of energy. You have absolutely zero evidence that there's any more energy than the recoiling gun. And you won't do the experiment that you need to do, right? What you need to do is make one of Joule's, containers of water. And what you need to do is shoot the bullet into the water and see how hot it gets. And then let the recoil of the gun go into the water and see how hot it gets. And they haven't even done that. I mean, the fact that they haven't done any of these experiments, that should be a trigger inside of your brain that says bad science. Not doing experiments, bad science. Not doing the Eddington experiment from space, bad science. All right. Obviously, people learn what they learn from another person. So again, the idea is that we all can learn and we can all invent. In the sense that you have the pieces in your brain and you have to put the pieces together and make them logically consistent. I'm giving you a logical inconsistency. I'm telling you, when they say that something dropping 4 times the distance in gravity has 4 times the energy, when it's only in the gravity twice as long, and I say the law of the lever completely is in contradiction. It says a completely different velocity is equal to a completely the 4 mass going 1 velocity. The 2 answers are in complete contradiction. You can't have the 2 different answers to the same question. So only one of those things, those rules, okay, is correct. And I would argue, obviously, the law of the lever is the one you choose. It's the 10,000-year-old theory that's been proven a zillion times, and your silly notion that Leibniz says so, well, yeah, Leibniz saying so doesn't add up to anything. God, you people are just such dirtbags. Ugh. All right. Oh, shit, yeah, I probably should have read my response. All right, probably 70% of my arguments involve me pointing out that they don't have... this is the whole chain, okay. That they don't have experimental evidence really proving what they claim. Have you ever seen it take 25 times the fuel to move something 5 times as fast? At minimum, you should be able to concede that good science can't be done with weak evidence. That's the part I'm saying that, okay, your brain is your brain, my brain is my brain, it's a mixing bowl. It's supposed to be trying to find the truth, right? It's supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to concede that that's what we're going to say. Okay, at least I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, all right? And say, yeah, you're trying to find the truth. And you can't agree with that statement. You can't agree that good science can't be done with weak evidence. You really have to have evidence. If you don't have evidence, you're just doing religion. You're doing some kind of, let's just make up hobgoblins. And where is there any evidence that science has tried to find this truth? They haven't done the simplest experiments. They haven't put the 5-ton train on one side of a tug of war and the 10-ton train on the other side of the tug of war. They haven't done any of them. And that isn't to you glaring evidence that they haven't done them because they don't come out their way. All right, if you were the only person who thought the golden rule made good logical sense, would it make you feel good? So it's responding to the feel-good remark. Yeah, it doesn't feel good to live on a planet of assholes who defend shit. Okay? I mean, and that's all you're just a bunch of poo eaters defending poo eating, and it's just, ew. It's grotesque to live on this planet. All right, and so this Gibbon jackass says, have you ever seen 25 times the fuel move something 5 times as fast? Just want to make sure. You know it's only during the acceleration, right? So why would you put that condition on it? Let's just say in space, all I need to do is give it the energy, and it has the energy forever, right? So, yeah, it doesn't need any more fuel. So, of course, it has to be just the acceleration. But you know, if you're on the highway or something, you got to go up hills, down hills. You got to maintain your 50 miles an hour. And you got friction taking it away constantly. So, of course, to stay going 50 miles an hour, you need to put in extra energy to continue going 50 miles an hour. So it'd be idiotic. And the truth is that, okay, the friction is going to be lower, in my opinion, right? The road friction gets lower the faster you go. But in some sense, that's bad because, yes, it's harder to push yourself. Wind resistance gets a lot worse because you start heading for a terminal velocity. You start heading towards the brick wall. And so the wind resistance gets worse the faster you go. So it's more taxing. And yet there's still no evidence. So even though it's harder to make something go faster because, there's lots of things against it, the fact is you still save money going 50 miles an hour. All right. So fuck you. I did state that somewhere in here, just clarifying. All right, so this moron, whatever this is, testicle brain, have you ever seen it take 25 times the fuel? Yes. Okay. The most basic example would be a pendulum. So where the fuck is there any evidence that the pendulum, if I make a pendulum go 5 times as fast, I have to push it 25 times with 25 times the fuel? Where's that evidence? Oh, that's right, it doesn't exist. Where you can measure the position and speed at any one point with ease, 4 times the height at the start. Yeah, and that'll only get you twice the velocity, and you have no evidence that twice the velocity is 4 times the energy. Just as you have no evidence that 5 times the velocity is 25 times the energy. Because the fact is, you're in the gravity less time. So, I mean, we've been over the whole rolling car thing, right? To me, that's the huge giveaway that all of this is bullshit. Because, I haven't drawn anything. I might as well draw something in this video, I guess. So, I've been over it and over it. And, I mean, it's just, to me, this is, you can't argue it. It's just so obviously true that it basically proves the point. I mean, it's over for your delusions, okay, about gravity. Again, it's 9.8 meters per 1 second. That's the ratio, 9.8 meters per second of velocity over 1 second. Not second squared. Fuck. All right, so this happens, all right? I take the same object, I give it 2 velocity and 1 velocity. All right, and this is what it'll look like. Okay, I get 4 times the distance out of the twice the velocity. But what do you know just looking at it? This is what 1 velocity looks like right here. Okay, that's it. So we know that 1 velocity is this. It does take 1 unit of time, so that's 1 unit of time there. All right. And that's 1 velocity. And what do you see over here? Well, that's exactly it, 1 velocity. This has to be 1 velocity at this location because this is exactly the same amount of motion. So it's going 1v. So it's going half its velocity 3/4 of the way down the track. Glaring fact. And the same thing is true in gravity when something's falling. It's 1, 3, 5, 7. Again, this is all stuff Galileo figured out 400 years ago. All right, so we know this is 1 unit of time, okay, and we know this is 1 unit of time, this whole section. This happens in the same amount of time as this happens, all right, and your argument is that somehow the ground received, okay, the same amount of friction, okay, the same amount of force went into the ground in all 4 of these units. And it's a silly proposition. The simple logical argument is the faster you go, the less pressure you're putting on the ground because you're in the gravity only this 1 second. You only have 1 second. All you have is 9.8 meters of pressure, if you want to call it that, in this whole section. You got 9.8 meters over this whole large area, and you got 9.8 over this small little tiny area. That's your weight. So your weight is obviously being distributed over a much larger area, which means you're putting a lot less force on the ground. I mean, it's just undeniable truth. You have to admit, you're lighter here. If this whole section here weighs the same as this section here. So obviously this is like if I was spreading pressure on something, obviously I took the same pressure and I spray it over a larger area, it's a lot less effective. It's a lot less weight or pressure. So obviously you're putting less pressure per per linear inch on the surface of the ground. And so it's all pretty easy to dissect. There's no room here for your beliefs, okay, that there's 4 times the energy there. There's only twice the energy. And if I made this road out of paper, and so you could see the weight. So when the thing started going slower and slower, I could have it, I could make a piece of paper and it'll fall through the paper here. Or I can make the paper a little more rigid and it'll fall through the paper here. We know it's getting heavier and heavier the slower it goes. So we know that I can change where it falls through the paper by just making the paper thicker and thicker and thicker. And it'll be perfectly illustrate the fact that the weight of the object is changing with its velocity. That is, how much pressure it's putting on the ground is changing. And there's less pressure here and more pressure here. Duh. And you idiots will argue, that's not true. When, yes, it's perfectly reasonable explanation. It's only 2 units of time. You went 4 times the distance, but you were only in the gravity twice as long. You only got 2 units of gravitational force pushing you into the ground. Alright. So, we hit this again, I guess. Yeah. Alright. Yes, the most basic example is to be the pendulum, where you can measure the position and speed of any point 4 times the height start. Okay, we already did that. Didn't we? Yeah, we did that. Alright. So 25x the starting height, 5x the speed. Right, and it's only 5 seconds in the gravity. You're only getting 5 seconds worth of gravity, and you only have 5 times the velocity. And you say that's 25 times the energy. So where did you prove it's 25 times the energy? Oh, that's right, you didn't. Let's see. And the details of momentum mean what? I don't know what that means, frankly. Okay, so I'll ignore it. At Draft Science, experiment simply proves event. It's showing you cause and effect. Okay, pushing a piece of wood and picking it up are both experiments in physics. Regardless, I see photons spin around each other and cause a pulse before they combine or merge. I need not prove what my mind shows me. So you do if you're going to make an argument to me, fucktard. Alright? I mean, what do you want me to do? You want me to sit there and argue hallucinations? Oh, yeah, that'd be so much fun. Fuck you. Oh, amazing. You're going to make an argument based on your own private knowledge of your own little delusion engine. My delusion engine says, well, that's just very exciting. No, it isn't. I'm just going to block him. Fuck this. Too silly. Alright. Isn't that why I said understanding and explaining in detail are different? So this is more bullshit. Understanding is just, you know, it's kind of a mush concept in terms of, yes, it's always about how much detail you can understand something with. We're stuck with the evidence, and the argument should be, why isn't there more evidence? Why haven't they done any of these car crash experiments, for example? Is this a Schrodinger conversion? What do you mean? I don't need to turn on the light to move the box. So I don't even know what that means. Alright, it's fine with me if you want to put a condition. So this is what I said to the other guy about the acceleration versus constant velocity. It's fine with me if you want to put a condition on it, but the fact is you can't logically justify that condition. A velocity is a velocity. It takes energy to make it, and in most cases it takes energy to keep it. Yeah, most of our cases in friction. Wind resistance, for example, gets worse the faster you go, and yet in spite of that disadvantage, there still isn't any quadratic fuel increase. Oh, more replies? Ugh, disgusting. Alright, no, it's actually quite lonely existence, but we're too honest to like which you clearly prefer to each their own. I don't even know what that could mean, but whatever. Let's see what Gibbons says. Kinetic energy is a moving object. Kinetic energy of a moving object tells you how much energy was needed to make it move. So I'm pointing out how that's just a lie. I mean, it's not true. It doesn't take 25 times the fuel to spin something 5 times as fast. So you just keep making this argument or you have no evidence for. And how much energy the object has due to its motion. So again, the ballistic pendulum indicates that the bullet doesn't have any more energy in the sense it can't make any more momentum than the recoiling gun. That 99.94% of the kinetic energy is unavailable for use. It can't be found. I'm saying it's not even in the form of heat. The only heat you have is the tiny bit of decrease in the momentum. You don't conserve 100% of the momentum. Now in the case of the 5-ton cart thing, right? So if I do the 5 mass cart going 10, and I add 5 to it, and I make it go a 10 mass cart going 5, that experiment 100%, you can do it so gracefully that you conserve 100% almost of the momentum. I mean, it's almost a perfect conservation. So there's no room for heat anywhere. You have to use momentum to make heat. You can't make any heat if you've conserved all of the linear motion as momentum. You can't possibly have made any heat. And again, they've never tested the experiment. They've never proven there's heat somewhere. They've never taken the temperature of the experiment and said, look, it's so much hotter here. We conserved 100% of the momentum, and it's hot. No evidence. Zero. So fuck you, you're an idiot. But anyway, kinetic energy, all right. It was needed to move. It does not tell you how much energy is needed to keep it moving under friction conditions. Well, of course it does, in the sense that it's just saying that if you're going to say that the conditions are somewhat equal, like your 2 carts are going to have an equal obstacle to overcome, that it's going to take the same energy as a 10 to a 5, that it's going to be 5 times as heavy, it's going to be 5 times as it's only 5 times the energy. If it only weighs 5 times as much, it only takes 5 times the energy to lift it against gravity, okay? It doesn't take 25 times the energy. You could start by rephrasing. Details of momentum mean what? What does that even mean? As a coherent question regarding specific aspects of the proposed experiment. So, yeah, you could go stick your head further up your ass, but I don't think you'll impress anyone. So fuck this thread. Alright. Our first surface or surface aluminized mirrors, thin film dispositions not used for these experiments. So I believe that experiment he's talking about are the silly entanglement experiments. What's the guy's name? The stupid guy with the stupid mathematical statement requiring things to come out to a 1, and they changed it to a 2. Back. I should have thought of his name by now. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. The Allen aspect experiment, I think, is what he's talking about. All right, well, let's just talk about mirrors, because this is just a funny subject in the context of the LIGO crap. All right, and so, yeah, it was my opinion, too, that, okay, for interferometers, it does make a difference if you can use a mirror that's just a first surface mirror, that is no glass, so you're not making a mirror with shiny stuff on the back, you're just making a shiny metal mirror, so there's no diffraction, there's no phase shift because you're going through a glass surface. So that makes some sense. But the question still remains, can you hit the first surface? How do you reflect light off the first surface of atoms? Guaranteed, right? Because it gets to be more and more distance. Atoms are pretty big. So compared to the wavelength of the light, the atoms, That's the other way around. But you just add up atoms, you can just say you are cutting into the wavelength of the light. Say if there was 1,000 atoms to the wavelength of the light, you can understand that if you're going into those, you're changing the phase of the light still. All right, so LIGO, faced with this dilemma, right, because it's going to bounce the photon off the mirror 1,800 times. Okay, 1,800 times it's going to hit a mirror and reflect. 1,800 times. And so what do? They don't have a first surface mirror. They don't take some shiny metal and say, okay, well, just hope that we hit this like tungsten or something and it doesn't go very deep. It hits the top atom and bounces off. No, they made a mirror that's a foot thick. So their theory is that by making the mirror a foot thick, we create a first surface bounce. So by making the mirror a foot thick, they guarantee that the photon bounces off the surface. Now, you have to understand that that's bold theory, right? That's bold talk. To say that I made a device that's a foot thick and it makes photons bounce off the surface. But, if I made it this thick, it wouldn't work as well. If I made it this thick, it wouldn't work as well. I mean, it just sounds... What the fuck are you talking about? How the fuck could that possibly work? I mean, so who knows what that theory is, right? So LIGO makes up lots of theories, about how you convert matter into bent space. Lots of wacky theories they have. But the mirror theory, I find very curious, that somehow a foot thick mirror makes photons bounce off the surface better. I have my doubts, personally. All right, so I think that's enough. Let's see, the amount of equipment and observation, how much this guy doesn't believe the other guy. I don't even know what that means. Are all these experiments showing the observer the shape of the electron they are emitting from and the frequency of its shell? No, I mean, you can't, you can't see a Volkswagen by banging Volkswagens into it. You can't see an electron by banging an electron into it. All right, so frankly, that's just not going to work. All right, so you're hoping to see the shape of the atom, but you can't see the shape of an electron. All right, the 2 is angular momentum, linear momentum. The square root is, fuck you. I mean, this, you can't even come close to the subject, right? All right. Off topic, but I often watch live streams on TikTok. Okay, and anyway, so why don't you suggest it to one of those people on TikTok? I mean, Anyway, there is a guy, one of these conspiracy flat earth debunkers that I do have on the hook right at the moment. And we'll see if we can get him to man up. Okay. He's being rude and insulting, and we'll just see if he can back that up with, actually having the courage to face the argument. Yes, debunk me, please. I mean, I have to beg that. Please mock me any way you can. Oh, wait a minute. No, don't mock me any way you can. Okay? Because that would be a waste of all our time. Mock my physics arguments. Take the statement where I say it's silly to think it takes 25 times the fuel to spin something 5 times as fast. Take that statement and mock it somehow. Mock that somehow it's so obviously true. Show us how obviously true it is. People are just such pieces of crap. All right, anyway. So we'll endeavor to persevere. That's all I can do. No real choices. And so I do want to get to it's just all these experiments get a little bit. Stern Gerlach is brought up as some sort of proof of so many different things, and it's just it's such a completely there's just the amount of information you can glean from it is completely dependent on you fucking with the experiment and trying it different ways, and without those comparisons you really can't draw any conclusions. You need to do some comparisons. Anyway, so that'll probably be the next subject. But anyway, we'll see. if I can find the video that I wanted to play and respond to and all that crap. But anyway, till the next time and such.